again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the...
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Thursday night and I am joined by Supermac. Gibbo is away on his jollies again. But welcome, Malcolm. How are you?
All right. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
I'm very good. Yes, all good. Been out and about and had a couple of meetings today, and pleased to say that we're going to be seeing each other in the flesh for the first time in 15 months or so.
Yeah, I'm frightened to death.
How mad is that? So it's an open invite to a few people from NUFC Matters. We're going to be doing a quiz night with Dean, who anybody who knows mine and Malcolm's history from pre-match, done a few things with Dino, the DJ. He's doing a quiz night at the Schooner in Gateshead on Monday night. We're going to pop down, give him a bit of support. There's going to be a round on Malcolm's career and also a general knowledge round, which I'm going to read out. But we're going to pop down at 8 o'clock. So get in touch with the Schooner pub in Gateshead if you fancy popping down. Find out the details about it, and me and Malcolm will be there. So I'm looking forward to seeing you. 90 minutes with Malcolm. At least I can put that in me football and CV, Malcolm.
Yes. It'd be good fun.
Looking forward to it.
He's a good lad.
Yeah, he is. He's a great lad. Anyway, we always ask you questions, Malcolm, but before we came on air, you said you've got a question for the people in the chat tonight.
I have.
Go for it then.
Right. The question is this. I'd like to know who scored 2 goals in a minute, 15 minutes apart.
Who scored 2 goals in a minute?
2020s.
Yeah.
Who scored 2 goals in the same minute, 15 minutes apart?
Okay, so anybody gets the answer in the chat, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it was Harry Kane anyway. So nobody. There's everybody's.
It wasn't him.
There's everybody's clue. It wasn't Harry Kane. All right. As always, we'll take your questions tonight, and obviously a lot more questions towards Malcolm, please, because there's no John Gibson tonight. I hope John's having a great night, whatever he has decided to do. This new married life thing certainly suiting him, Malcolm.
It certainly is. Yes. Yeah, I think he's getting younger by the day.
He is. He definitely. Okay, Tom Dixon straight in with a question. He says, question for Malcolm. England played Germany on Tuesday. Do you think England have a chance of beating them? Simple question, that.
Germany are Jekyll and Hyde this competition. And I thought Hungary were absolutely brilliant against Germany. I really did. It was one of the best games I've seen so far, and there have been some very good games. But I was just fascinated by the way that Hungary went about the game. And Hungary, they've lived in wilderness years for a very long time now at international level. And I was just so impressed. And I just hope that, because when you think that the game before playing against Hungary, Germany, they played against Portugal, absolutely murdered them. Scored some cracking goals. The looks on the faces of Portuguese defenders, they just couldn't believe what was being done to them. And then 3 days later, Germany go out against Hungary. And Hungary, they were brilliantly organised, defended fantastically. But then when they got possession, they really did break at pace. And scored cracking goals. Germany got back into the game, for me, a bit fortunately. And so I hope Gareth Southgate has got that, the full match of that. And he's saying to his England players, watch Germany over and over again. Look at them as a team, look at them individually, and see that because Hungary really did highlight a lot of weak points about Germany. They're not the side of yesteryear, that's for sure. And so if Germany go out in the way that they did against Hungary, yes, England can beat them. If they go out against in the way that they played against Portugal, England are really going to struggle. So it's which German side turns up. Mind, I have to say, which England side will turn up as well on the night. I haven't been overly impressed with England at all. I don't think they've been all that innovative. I'm really not sure about Gareth Southgate. He's got some really good players there, but they're just not. They're not making a good.
I'll play devil's advocate. We finished top of the group and we didn't concede and we didn't concede a goal. So
that's true.
Gareth Southgate's done the job that he was asked to do, and now is the true test. We're into the last 16. This is where he earns his wages. I agree. Listen, I only chucked that out there because ultimately it hasn't been very entertaining. In fact, it's been like watching Newcastle at times. It's probably too defensive, and that is Gareth Southgate all over. But when we've played maverick football in the past, we've come a cropper and got knocked out. So is this the way to win a major trophy?
I'm not sure. Particularly when you come up against a side like Germany. And England, for all the talent that they've got in the side, they haven't looked overly inventive. And when you play in these top continental tournaments, the Euros, the World Cup, you need to allow players to really just go and shine. And I just feel that the players that have the ability to do that just haven't done it. They haven't gone and shone as we know they can do. And it's Gareth's job to get them doing that. You need to have players who when they get on the ball, they suddenly just grow and away they go. And I really haven't been seeing it. It's been a bit of a plod for me, I'm afraid. But
I would agree. I don't think there's anybody who will have watched an England game, all the way through. Certainly people at home. I mean, I watched the final game at home. I was out for the Scotland game at an event, so I saw it, but I didn't see it. If you know what I mean, you can't really focus properly. But I sat at home, and I probably spent half the game either looking at something else on my phone or whatever. So it's not encapsulating the audience. It's not entertaining. It's not free flowing football. It's not like watching Liverpool when they won the league, a couple of seasons ago, or Man City this season. It's not, and I think a lot of it. I don't know whether this came across with you, Malcolm, as somebody who played for England, but I get excited about the World Cup because you see players who you don't normally see. You had you go back to Italia 1990, there was the excitement of seeing Roger Milla. Nobody knew how old he was. We heard about this Cameroonian, and the progressed. Or when you watched Colombia and you had Higuita with this, the scorpion kick, or the flamboyancy of one of their other players. So I think the World Cup brings something completely different. I think the European championships probably aren't as exciting because a lot of those European players ply their trade in the Premier League. And I think we see a lot of them all the time. And there's almost a cancel culture because a lot of them cancel each other out because they're playing each other every week. And if they're not playing each other every week, those teams play each other in the Champions League. So they're aware of each other. I don't know. Maybe that's just maybe that's why people are a lot more cautious and it's not as free flowing,
Sure. It's a good point that you make that, yes, there's a familiarity because of the European competitions. Between all the top players around Europe, but we don't know what's going on in South America at the moment, for example, or in some of the African countries. We don't know quite what what the levels are that they can reach, and they're always likely to surprise, and pleasantly so. But England haven't surprised. They really haven't in any way, and I've found it all somewhat monotonous.
Yep, boring. I think we agree on that. It hasn't been exciting, but let's see what happens in the last 16. I'm sure that we'll have more questions through the night about that. John Mitchison says, a question to Malcolm: how many hat tricks did you score at Newcastle, Mal? Can you remember?
I think it was 1 or 2 over 20, something like that.
Wow.
But I can't say for sure. I'm sure that somebody could go and count through the records. It was about 20, 21, 22, maybe, something like that. I usually got about 5 in the year, 4 or 5 in the year.
Okay, Billy Trey says, with Harry Kane not threatening to score at the Euros and his lack of mobility, would you drop him from the England side? I mean, he's playing as if he's either got something on his mind, i.e. an impending transfer, or he's got a bit of an injury, a little niggle, which nobody really knows too much about.
I think it could be both. Certainly, when you have a major transfer in the offing, as Harry does, you can't take your mind off it. Not until it's all goes through, it's all concluded, all the paperwork's done. Thank you very much, and you're now a player with a different club. So yes, that will be playing on his mind. Also, he's not the quickest anyway, but to me, he seems to be lumbering a little.
Yeah,
in the way that he runs, and so quite possibly. He has got a bit of a knock, and it's all being kept hush hush. Albeit, I don't think England are playing in the way that suits him anyway. This particular series of games, I saw one instance, and it was so glaring, where the right back of England had gone down. He'd gone down the line. There was a clear crossing opportunity. He was about 30 yards from the corner flag. Clear crossing opportunity into the area. Kane was in the box, and somebody else was going in there as well. And the fellow, he was in the space to get the cross in. He turned round and played it all the way back.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's not like you. You're an attacking lad. You love to get forward. You love to get crosses in. Why have you done that? And all I can think was that England were under instruction by Southgate.
Yeah.
Just to play it safe. Don't give the ball away. You don't need to go forward. Let's just drag it out. And that's what they look like doing, just dragging it out. And that's so negative. It really is. Get the cross in. And Harry Kane, dear me. In the end, you see what you get. You get into this ridiculous situation where you keep making runs, expecting the cross to come in. The cross doesn't come. You come back out, and then you look for when the cross might come in, and then you make another run, and the cross doesn't come again. In the end, you stop making the runs.
Yeah.
And then the cross comes in, and it looks really bad. And if you don't get a continuity, you want to have a series of crosses in a game, not just one here and one there. You want it to be coming on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, great questions. Few answers coming in from people for your opening question, which was at the start of the program. Was it Dubravka? Says Darren Cowan.
No, it wasn't Dubravka. No.
Aaron Taylor says Benzema.
Correct. Well done, sir.
Well
Yes.
done.
Right. I'll explain how it happened. Benzema scored in the 45th plus 2 minutes. So it was technically the 47th minute of the game. And then they went for half time. They came back after half time and he scored 2 minutes later.
Brilliant.
So he technically scored twice in the 47th minute and with 15 minutes in between.
Well done to Thomas Wilson as well.
Well done.
And Kenny Ranson from South Shields got it as well. He did try to help people, I think, with his original answer, because he was in the 46th minute at the end of the first half and the 46th minute beginning of the second half. There is a clue for you lot. So you even tried to help people in the chat, which is very generous of you, Kenny.
Yes.
Well done. No prizes for that tonight, folks, but well done. Great stuff and nice to get.
Interesting one though.
No, very good. Really good.
I just saw one about a text come in about Billy.
Oh yes, Billy. What happened? What was that over? It was from Julie, wasn't it?
How has Billy dealt with his fame on social media? He's asked me for a rise in his pocket money, he wants extra gravy bones.
I love it, gravy bones. It's fantastic. They are
gravy bones. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Great stuff. Okay, Paul Oxley says, "Hi guys, Malcolm, should Southgate ditch having two holding midfielders in the side and actually go for it against Germany? Play both Grealish and Foden." Now, I will say, Malcolm, I don't know what you feel like, but I feel, and I know he hasn't played much football, I always feel more confident with the England team when Jordan Henderson is in the middle. And I quite like Jordan Henderson. And I also think, and this could be controversial to some people, I don't rate Maguire as much as a centre-half for Man United as I do for England. But I actually think he looks really good as an international player. I like Maguire. He does the simple stuff, doesn't mess about. He's a bit like Tony Adams, gets it out there. But I love Henderson. I think it gives you a good spine.
Yes, he does. He's limited on pace.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which is a bit of a problem at international level. But if you're going to play the likes of Grealish, Foden, Mount, players who want to get forward all of the time, then having somebody sitting like Henderson, and with all his vast experience, he reads the game tremendously. And so, yes, but having two, dear me, and apart from anything, Henderson doesn't need somebody else. He really doesn't. And so, play Henderson by all means, and have an attacking formation in front of him to go at the German goal. And personally, I think that'll work. He's experienced enough, and not only as a player but as a captain. And if England are just starting to find they're getting under a little bit of pressure because the players keep getting forward, he'll sort it out. He'll just say, look, one drop off when the other's going and stuff like that. He'll get them organised. There's no problem on that. And so, yes, I will go with him. But I don't know why Southgate is playing these two holding midfielders together. It's quite bizarre. I don't know what he's trying to gain. All I can think is that he's wanting cover for the centre halves, and I don't think that they need cover because I think they're doing it very nicely on their own. Thank you very much. And I have a feeling that Gareth Southgate isn't feeling confident within himself, about himself. He's certainly not filling me with confidence anyway.
No, not me either. Not people in the chat. Jeff says also not sure about possession football. Looks a bit aimless. We need to be more direct, a bit like Hungary.
Yeah.
Derek Sharp says we've got another golden generation, and Southgate is destroying it. Strong words. Paul
They
says
are strong words.
England are negative.
Yeah, and I can see why the comment is being made. Gareth Southgate isn't an adventurous type, and I'm not sure that he has the wide expanse of knowledge about the game to overcome that. I'm really not. I have a massive, great question mark.
Toon Tipster, ADB, sorry, is the same as me. I love the World Cup. The Euros is like watching the Champions League. That's a point I made earlier. Joe Walker says, being from Middlesbrough, Joe's our Toon Tipster on a Friday night. And he says, being from Middlesbrough, my mates are describing England like Southgate's Middlesbrough team. Steady, careful, a point will do. Let's not go too mad up front. And again, you've got to agree. That is pretty much what it's like. Paul reckons I think France, Italy, Spain, Holland, Portugal all play better football than England. Yeah.
Can't argue.
Yeah, can't argue with that either. Derek Sharp says, Malcolm, do you remember the sports car you had? I remember standing at the gates in Benwell getting autographs and you were driving that car.
Which one? Which colour?
Which colour, Derek? You had a few.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I need to know what colour it was, Derek. Let me know.
Go. Let him know. Okay, Darren says, is Ben White the right player for Arsenal? And is that the sort of player Newcastle need?
I'm wondering why the question is being asked.
Yeah. Are we being linked? Are we being linked with?
Is that the sort of player Newcastle need? Newcastle need all sorts of players, for heaven's sake, particularly better ones than they've had this past season. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'd have to give that some real serious thought. I'm not sure if he's an Arsenal type player, but anybody that is better, I think, would certainly suit Newcastle.
Okay, and next question is from Peter. He says, Malcolm, is your goal in a friendly against St Johnstone still the quickest goal in UK history? It was in the Guinness Book of Records at the time. You scored straight from the kickoff.
Yeah, not straight from the kickoff because you can score with a second touch. There is no way that anybody could actually score quicker because John Tudor just rolled it a yard and I smacked it and I only took a single pace and I smacked it and it went like an Exocet missile because I had spotted what the St Johnstone goalkeeper was doing. Do you remember that decades ago, goalkeepers used to put a mark in the centre of the 6-yard line, 6-yard box, so that when they were there, they could look at that mark and know just where the goal was behind them exactly, so they'd work their positioning off it. And the goalkeeper was there at the edge of the 6-yard box, and he was digging his studs in to make this line. To make the mark on the edge on the 6-yard line, and I said to John, he's not looking. So John, he just rolled it, and I've hit it. It's gone like an Exocet straight into the St Johnstone net. If the goalkeeper hadn't been marking the line and had been looking at what was going on, he would have simply caught it, but he didn't. He head down, marking away. And so it went straight in. It couldn't have gone any quicker. So I can't see how on earth that record would ever be beaten.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. Merseyside Magpies has never been bothered about England, to be fair. Club over country all day. International footy is just boring. And Mark says, question for Supermac. During your playing career, were there any goalkeepers that you hated coming up against or couldn't seem to score past? Good question.
Well, funnily enough, no. It wasn't goalkeepers. But there was one particular ground. I found it so difficult to play on it. And I don't think, I can't remember ever scoring there. And it was Filbert Street, which was the home of Leicester City in those days. Every other ground was fine, no problem at all. But Filbert Street, I could never just feel comfortable in going and playing the game on the pitch. It always just felt not quite right for me. Everywhere else I loved. And it wasn't specifically the goalkeepers, because at St James Park I scored regularly against Leicester. So it was the ground more than anything else. No goalkeepers overly bothered me. There were those goalkeepers who were much better than others. The best I ever played against were Gordon Banks, Peter Shilton, and Pat Jennings.
Yeah, great keepers, great goalkeepers. Yeah. We've got one question on Twitter, which I promised I'd ask. Ian Watson said, I was watching a Sir Bobby Robson documentary the other day, and both John Gibson and Malcolm were on it talking about him. Just wondering what Malcolm thought of Bobby as a person.
Oh, he was a wonderful, wonderful guy. He had a terrific football knowledge and was prepared to spend all day with you if necessary, just imparting that knowledge to try to help you, try to improve you. He would go on the coaching pitch and work with you all day long. And he was a man who just gave of himself all of the time, whether it was on the training ground or elsewhere. And I know that when he was manager of Newcastle, that he would think nothing of staying, of having people come for appointments, charities, and what have you, at 5, 5:30, 6, 6:30, 7, 7:30. You know, he'd work well into the evening, just looking after charity matters and helping out wherever he could. And he was an absolutely fabulous guy. He really was. And I personally met him first when I was 8, when he was playing for Fulham, and he was as generous then as he was to the day that he died. And he was just a wonderful, wonderful fella. And of course he signed me at Fulham, and so I played for him, and he gave me my first opportunity in the Football League. And I appreciated it. I scored goals for him. But it was all a very iffy situation at that time at Fulham Football Club. It was a shame because I was a boyhood Fulham supporter. And I saw Bobby be badly treated by senior players, and they were old teammates of his. That was the shocking thing. And he of course was looking to move one or two of them on and bring young players through. and they weren't going to have it. So it finished up. It was a war in the dressing rooms, pretty much. Such a shame. But I think that was a great experience for him to go through and deal with. And he then went to Ipswich, and of course he was possibly Ipswich's best manager since Alf Ramsey.
Yeah, great stuff, great memories. Big shout out to our sponsor, Spider VPN, for your internet security. Google Spider VPN, they come up at the top of your search list. They're the guys to trust to protect your passwords and everything on your computer. Also, a big shout out to Skips and Bins, another one of our main sponsors. Skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. And a big shout out to John at qtechshop.co.uk. Good to catch up with John today for a coffee. They are the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and lots of other stuff as well. And to John at Jab Signature, who makes all of our flyers. Hope to see you soon, John. And if you're a first-time visitor to the channel, please subscribe by rolling your mouse, if you've still got one, over the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner. That's it. You can subscribe for free. We are still doing a show a night, so that's 7 a week. And hit the thumb up to like the video, which is very important. It gets us a little bit of traction. It's good for the algorithm. Hit the share button, which shares it to your social media. You could share it to Twitter or Facebook for us. Like-minded Newcastle fans on Facebook groups. It's all good for us. And hit the comment button to join in with people who have got like-minded views or some opposing views, but are all quite friendly in the chat. So please do that. And don't forget, the match day bucket for the food bank is still operational throughout the Euros. So there it is. Come on, England. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. Please drop whatever you can in, any loose change, into the cyber bucket. And of course, you still have a chance to be entered into the raffle for the wonderful watch, which QTech have given us. And that will be drawn on Friday the 6th of August at the NUFC Matters Charity Pool Night, 24-hour charity pool night, which Steve Hasty will be giving us more information about on Friday's show on the Fab 4. And the Fab 4 show kicks off at 5:30. John has done us proud. He's got us dressed as the Wizard of Oz this week. There's me as the Tin Man, Steve Hasty as Dorothy. It's always because he's got long hair. He gets picked on, Malcolm. And NCSL Keith there as the Scarecrow and Mitch as the Cowardly Lion. And just for interest this weekend, as I keep promoting, Bruce Jones, who played Les Battersby in Coronation Street. I did an interview with him a couple of weeks ago. So that is on over the weekend. And we are bringing back our Dream Team series. And that this weekend is with Chris Hall. Chris has given us his all-time Newcastle United 11 and also given us his substitutes and his Dream Team manager. So that is part of an ongoing series where we interview the people who are on the show about their all-time Newcastle United team. So make sure you tune in this weekend for those programmes. Okay, back to the questions. And let's see, Gary Milligan says, "Hi, Supermac. Do you think the Premier League is still the best in the world? I think we are still light years behind France and Germany and Italy and the like. I think some fans get carried away after a win. So is the Premier League still the best in the world?"
It's a good question at this particular time, I think. Personally, I think it is. And the reason why I say that is that the likes of Manchester City, Chelsea, Man United at the top there, they can compete at the very same level as the likes of Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich and what have you. Where I think we are much stronger in the Premier League is what happens from halfway down. I think that we have much better teams, much better players in in the lower half of the table than you'll find over in Germany or in France or indeed in Holland or wherever. So I think we have got a stronger league, simply because, Manchester City, I know that they went on a hell of a run, but they will get beat. And they will get beat by bottom half of the table sides. So yeah, I think it is the strongest in Europe, but it's something that you can argue over all the while and never really know the truth.
Yeah, I would agree. Good one. Good answer. Nicholas says, Supermac, do you still have your England caps?
No, I've got a couple, but no, I put them up for auction about 2 or 3 years ago, and I got very little out from memorabilia. They'd sort of sit tucked away, and
Gathering dust.
Yeah, really, and I didn't get any joy from them at all, but I knew that other people would get joy, so I auctioned them off, and yes, I know for a fact that they do bring other people huge joy, and I'm happy for that. And I don't miss them. I don't miss them. And in all honesty, I think that my insurance premium's gone down.
Chippers, good evening. He says, I'll ask Supermac the same question I asked Mick Lowe's a few weeks ago. What is there more chance of? Bruce getting a new deal or the takeover happening?
Oh, Bruce won't get a new deal, so the takeovers for sure got more
legs
happening, I think.
All right, well, there you go. That's a simple answer, but I think I'll put a smile on people's faces.
Bruce won't get a new deal.
Derek says, I think it was a cream Lotus, the car that you had.
No, I didn't have a Lotus. No, I didn't have a cream one. So now it could have been. Oh, I know what I think it might be. It was a Jensen Healey. It was a Jensen Healey, and it started off sky blue, but after a few weeks, the paint was coming off in huge chunks, and there had been a fault in the way that the paint had been put on, and so it had to go back to the to the manufacturers, and they said that they couldn't do it in blue again, and that it needed a much sort of thicker base of paint, and so they sent it back to me painted orange. When I saw it, when it came back, I just, what the hell is that?
Like one of Gibbo's suits.
Yeah. So I was driving around in a bright orange car.
Dear me, I wouldn't have missed you. Talk about being discreet.
No, that's right. Yeah. I didn't get involved in a crash, that's for sure.
Merseyside Magpie said, what's your thoughts on England avoiding picking Northeast club players? I'm sure I read once that Gaza didn't get a cap till he moved down south. I mean, he didn't get capped at Newcastle. It was too early in his career. But if we're looking at more modern times, Mal, I mean, I've seen Southgate at the game plenty times, but he's clearly watching the opposition because he doesn't rate any of the Newcastle players.
No, that's for sure. But there's hardly an Englishman to be had there. Under Southgate, but of course, these days, the modern technology, good heavens above, you can get to see any player that you want. You know that I would imagine that that if it's not the FA, then it will be the Premier League. That they will have people taking the full 90-minute recordings of every single game that's been played. And I'm sure that if a manager, if he wants to see a 90-minute game, he can get hold of those people and they will they'll send the thing either by video or over the wires. So there's no north-south divide anymore when it comes to football. Modern technology has dismissed it in its entirety. You know, I remember when I was with Newcastle, and I was seriously told by people, you struggle to get in the England squad because they don't like travelling up to the north from London. And I once put that to Alf. I just mentioned it to him, to Alf Ramsey, and he said it's nonsense. He said why I don't go to Newcastle is, he said, I prefer to watch players away from home. So if I'm watching a Newcastle player, he said I'll watch them playing at Spurs or Ipswich or Arsenal or Chelsea, and he said, so I don't really need to go to Newcastle to see anybody play. You know, and I understand that. As a manager myself, I always preferred to watch a player to see how he plays away from home. You know, there were players who would always perform at home. They were called homers. They weren't so bright away from home, and so it was, to me, quite sensible that Alf he would only watch players away from home, and if they could really play away from home under a bit more pressure than at home, then he'd select them.
Okay, Derek says, Malcolm, who was the centre half you hated playing against?
I didn't hate playing against anybody. There were damn good centre halves. There were damn good centre half partnerships. The best was Roy McFarland and Colin Todd, without any shadow of doubt. They were unbelievable. Roy McFarland, he was a great header of the ball, great in the air, and Colin Todd's pace was fantastic. And I relished the battle that I knew I was going to have against the two, with Roy McFarland in the air and with Colin Todd on the deck. By heavens, we had some sprint races in games that we played against each other. And that's not to not to ignore other players, but I just found they were the best partnership around. But oh dear, there was some terrific centre halves. One who never really gets a mention, Alan Hunter at Ipswich by Everton, and him and Kevin Beattie. What a partnership they were! Dear me, Kevin Beattie, so quick, so strong. Oh, what a build on him! And you play against them, and then you finish up playing with them in the England side. There was a hell of a lot of quality in defenders back then, and of course they didn't mess about when it came to a tackle. You know, it's very much different to what it is now. Very different.
Billy says, does Mal think he'd have beaten David Hemery and Keith Fielding in the 100 metres in his last Superstars with a fit knee? And how was Hemery allowed to run by turning pro when you couldn't in the football?
Now, I'm not sure about the last. I'm trying to make sense of the.
Yeah, I couldn't understand it. Yeah,
in the last bit of the question, but now I actually ran quicker times than Keith Fielding. David Hemery, I think he beat me when I was. I retired from football, and my knee was a real problem, and so where I could run 10.4 in the 100 meters, I was now sort of down to about 11.6, 11.7, and so David Hemery, he was running about 11.1, 11.2. So he beat me, but it was when I had a real dodgy knee. And Keith Fielding, he was the rugby player, and I think he ran 10.6. I had run 10.7 in Superstars, but I had done a time, and that was his best ever time, that 10.6. But I had run 10.4. Now, dear Ron Pickering, who was the great athletics coach, and he and David Vine were the commentators on Superstars. And after I ran I ran 10.4 in I ran 10.4 in Stockholm. No, sorry, in Malmö, in Sweden, in Malmö, and it had to be chalked off because the Swedish guy had full started, and he kept full starting. But having run 10.4 in this particular sprint, Ron Pickering, he was up in the stand commentating, and he signaled to me. He said, come on up. So I went up, and he said, do you know what time you've run? And I said, no, I don't. He said, you've run 10.4. He said, and that is the second quickest time in Europe this year. He said, only an Italian sprinter has run slightly quicker. He said, so you've run quick enough to represent England or Britain, GB, in the Olympics. I said, oh, right. Oh, great. He said, I'm going to talk to you as a coach. He said, if you came under my tutorship for 6 months, I would knock your time down from 10.4. He said, because I can, he said, I have the things I can teach you and get you to do that would just give you that extra little bit of pace. He said, I will knock off half a second, at least, maybe more. He said, but if I knock off half a second, he said, that takes you down to 9.9. And he said, that will be equaling the world record at the time. And I said, oh, really? I said, oh, fascinating. He said, yes, but then you're a professional, so go away. Because it was strictly amateur and professional, and there the twain shall meet, except in things like Superstars. So there, I think, is perhaps what he was getting to in that last part of his question, that for Superstars, pros and amateurs could run together.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, he says, hope all is well. Stephen Supermac, a question for Supermac. Is there anything that annoys you when watching football these days? Mine is the amount of diving.
Yes. yeah, they are taking it way too far, and particularly in the football that I've watched over the past 2 or 3 nights. But referees aren't helping the situation. They're really not. I saw a fella just go shoulder to shoulder with an opponent, and the referee gave a foul. You know, it's shoulder to shoulder, for heaven's sake, which is all part of the game. It's not breaking any rules, and I'm not sure that referees are being allowed to just get on with their job to the basic rule book. I think too much is being thrown at them that they've got to do, that they've got to think about and take note of. I think, see, what it comes down to is you talk about diving, people looking for the fouls and what have you. If a referee falls for it, players will keep doing it. They'll keep diving. All it needs is a referee, and I've seen a couple of referees in the Euro matches in the past couple of weeks. I've seen a couple of referees just look at the player, laugh, and say, play on. And that makes a fool of the guy who's trying to con you. And so I wish more referees would take note of that and do it themselves, because diving is cheating. And there's an awful lot of diving going on. But if referees fall for it, players will keep diving. They will keep diving. And I'm sorry that it goes on. But also, there's a lot of good, fair tackles, strong tackles, mind, that are being penalised. And so I think the football authorities and the football referees have really got to work very hard to get it right, because footballers will seek to take advantage of whatever weakness they see.
Yeah,
that's their job.
Yeah, of course it is. Wholeheartedly agree with that. Gary says, who was the dirtiest or hardest player you played against, Mal?
I think dirtiest, Terry Payne of Southampton. He was a right winger. Dear me, he was a right over the top merchant. Oh, and yeah, I suffered at his not at his hands so much, more of his right foot, and it just scraped all the way down my shin. Not very nice. And of course, that kind of a tackle, it can break bones as well. So yeah, Terry Payne, he was an absolute rascal.
All right. Billy Trey says Hemery turned professional so he could compete in the athletics events, but professional footballers couldn't be in the football events, as far as I can remember. That was the point that Billy was trying to make earlier.
I think you're getting a little bit confused here, Billy. Hemery didn't turn professional, as far as I know, or he would have finished totally competing as an amateur and then perhaps turned professional. But for what reason? Because there wasn't any athletics as such that were professional, except like the Powder Hall sprint and things like that. You know, that there are professional events that go on around the country, but I don't think David Hemery ever got involved with any of those whatsoever. I think that it was just it was okay for amateurs and professionals to compete together in a television program, basically.
Okay, Mike Stewart said, as a kid, I collected those football trading cards. Were they called tops? I was delighted if I got a Supermac one. He says, do you have any, Malcolm? I had about 10 Derek Dugans for some reason.
You're welcome to 10 Derek Dugans. No, I never touched them. No. Oh, I used to sign loads of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the little kids. Oh, can you sign me cards?
Tim Cairns says, how far do you think England are going to go in the Euros? We started with England, Mal. We might as well finish with England.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go beyond Germany. I really don't. I think Germany will turn it on. And England are better than they have been showing, but they're just not showing it. But I just get the feeling they're being hampered in a number of ways. And well, I've already said it earlier this evening, but I don't have a great faith in Gareth Southgate. I'm afraid, I really don't.
Okay.
I don't think he's got the tactical awareness and flair to get the very best out of 10 outfield players, get them all working together that in a way that it shows their strengths rather than catches them out on their weaknesses.
Yeah, I'm going to stick my neck out. I think they'll beat Germany, but I think they'll come a cropper in the quarters. I think there's better. I think there's better teams, but this Germany team's rebuilding. I think we've got enough to get past them. I think we might bore them to death, but I think we'll. I think it could be a 1-0 after extra time.
What? No, Germany will score. That's for sure. The problem is that England aren't scoring prolifically.
Yeah.
They've only scored 2, for heaven's sake. It's not enough. They needed to get out in these early games, get out on the pitch and go score 3 and 4. Have 15 or 20 shots during the game. They've been having 2 shots a game and maybe scoring 1. Not good enough. And against Scotland, good heavens above, I was absolutely horrified to see how England were playing in that game. It was so wrong.
Could be interesting if Wales and England, carry on progressing through. We could end up meeting them in the semis. So we'll wait and see. Next time we're on next Thursday, we'll know either way what our fate.
Can I just say this then, Steve? That come next week when we're doing the next edition of this podcast.
Yeah.
That if England have beaten Germany, then everybody can come on and absolutely slaughter me, murder me, call me all the idiots under the sun. But okay. I cannot see England beating Germany. I really can't.
Okay, mate. Great stuff. Look forward to seeing you in the flesh on Monday down at the Schooner for the quiz night. But until next week, Malcolm, been an absolute pleasure as always. And we'll see everybody next Thursday. Take care.
All right. See you next Thursday, everyone. And maybe at the Schooner on Monday night. Who knows?
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past.